everybody. Grab your popcorn, grab a drink. It is time for the Witches Movie Coven. Yep, 5 witches talking about witches in movies. We've got some fabulous witchy Disney-esque movies for you today. My name is Patti Negri. I'm one of your hosts. You probably know me from the Witching Hour podcast, Ghost Adventures, all sorts of things. And my co-hosts, we have Heather Greene, we have Jason Mankey, we have Richard-Lael Lillard, and we have Courtney Buckley. And we, of course, all have Philip the Black Coat. But I will let everybody introduce themselves more later. Let's do a little recap on last week. Today we're going to talk about Mary Poppins and Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So yes, we're going away from the horror films a little bit, at least in my opinion. Richard-Lael. But we could do a really quick recap of last week. It was the haunted doll week. We did Annabelle. So did everybody go out and buy a haunted doll? And let me just first say that since then, I do not sell haunted dolls on eBay. I do not sell haunted dolls at all. I never have. I got an email from somebody, actually a client, someone I know, saying they bought one of my haunted dolls and that it's got a good home. And I'm like, I don't have a haunted doll. And I found it on eBay, and the sellers, this was number 6 of 10 of the Patti Negri collection, of which there is none, where I put evil gins into a collection of dolls, which I did not. And they're even guaranteed that I will bind them. And they mentioned my school, University Magica. So it is not me. I have never, I don't think ever will sell a haunted doll. So if report them, don't buy from them. It is a scam artist. So I didn't mean to start it like that, but I mean, I've had so many scammers. This was like a new low. Why? Just sell your own damn haunted dolls. But speaking of haunted dolls, how's everybody's doll since last week, Courtney?
I don't own a doll, Patti, thank you so much, but my not a doll is still very much unhaunted and behaving itself. Thankfully, thank you to everyone out there who watched last week and maybe thought about sending me a haunted doll or anything related to that. I did not receive any, so I do appreciate that. However, our Witches Movie Coven group text was just lighting up with ads, Facebook ads for haunted dolls. So now my entire, like, everything on my phone that is like a sponsored ad has to do with haunted dolls. So just thank you so much for all of that. No, thank you. Put that away.
It's a good start to the show so far.
I have some updates on Courtney the haunted doll.
God.
Oh, please.
She actually, I found out her wig is fully damaged, so she is going to need a fully new wig, the poor thing. So I am now on the lookout for a mohair wig for her. So she has her beautiful hair again. So she had a little tragedy with her hair, but she's doing well otherwise, and her clothes are being cleaned. So here she is. Just look at her. Isn't she sweet?
The most horrific thing about that is that real Courtney, also had a tragic incident with my hair, which used to be down to like here, and I had to shave it all off, and that's why I wear a hat now, because I also had an incident.
I was wondering, Heather, if we could get Courtney doll maybe a baseball cap and a hoodie. Can we do that?
Yes, actually, you know what, Jason? I have a sewing room upstairs, and I actually sew doll clothes. I am now going to work on that.
Oh boy!
Yeah.
And then to make it even better, Courtney is going to send little clips of her own hair. So you can put inside.
Nope.
I'm going to see Courtney in March, so I'm going to try really hard to get a little bit there so we can add it to the doll.
I will slap your hand if it comes near my hair.
And it would be well deserved.
If Jason fails in March, then I will see her in April. So, one of us will find some way to make it a poppet.
I love you, Richard-Lael, but I will slap your hand too.
They might like that, Courtney.
I'm
this
never
is the Fighting Witches Movie Coven tonight. This is a violent show.
All right. So dolls, we love our dolls, or our non-doll dolls.
Thank you.
Yes, our non-doll dolls. Belle has been much happier this week, very quiet this week, I think, because she just got a little screen time, so she's happy. She's happy. You got to keep them happy. Learn that, Courtney. But let's talk. We decided first we were going to talk Bedknobs and Broomsticks. I honestly hadn't seen it in like 30 years or whenever it was. I definitely do not want to be the one to start. Who wants to be the one to start? Oh, Heather.
I guess I'll start with the story. I have to say before, I know you guys probably don't know this, but Disney, I grew up with a healthy dose of Disney daily. I love Disney, everything about it. My graduate degrees, I spent most of my graduate school, film school studies doing Disney stuff, mostly animation. And so I know a whole lot about the history and just have spent my life around. I have Mickey hanging over here. I'll just say that it's been everywhere in my whole life. So I loved this movie as a kid. Came out in 1971. But it has an interesting story. They acquired it in 1940. He acquired it at the end in the 1940s. And it actually didn't get produced until released until 1971. It went into production a little bit and then around 1960, stopped back and forth because of Mary Poppins, and then eventually was put into production and finished it. Now, usually a film that takes that long to make, from the time it's acquired to the time it goes in and out of production, Disney or not, usually doesn't bode well for the success of a film, generally speaking. And Disney has a history with that. Sleeping Beauty took 10 years to make, was not successful. Black Cauldron, they had to get that out after 10 years, was not successful. It generally is a rule of thumb. So it's not surprising this film was not successful, but it was not successful for a lot of reasons. And I can talk about that over time, without boring you guys with the history of stuff. But it did win an Academy Award, and I do always enjoy Angela Lansbury. And it's almost a shame to have her talent in this film. Although when I was a kid and I saw it when I was little, I loved it. When I watch it now, it's not so great. But I love Disney, but I can tell you the good and the bad. I'm not afraid. I'm not going to be a super fan, a blind fan. So that's where I can start us off.
Okay, perfect. Who wants to go next? Jason.
There are things about this movie that should be great. So the idea of Angela Lansbury, who is wonderful, fighting Nazis as a witch, not just maybe I'm a witch, but I am a full witch. I practice witchcraft.
She's a
pretty
partial
bad.
witch.
What's that?
She's a partial witch.
She's
close. For 1971, I'm going to take what I can get in a Disney film. She's pretty open about being a witch, and as I said, she's fighting Nazis in Germany and in England, and for whatever reason, this movie just doesn't work. I should love this movie. This should be one of my favorite movies of all time. It has people in it that I like. It has a story that we should all identify with, and it just kind of falls flat. And it's a really big disappointment, especially after Mary Poppins, which it's always going to get compared to.
Mm-hmm. Right. Perfect. Thank you. Richard-Lael.
You know what? I hadn't seen it since I was maybe 5. And I kind of liked it in those days. Kind of. I loved Angela Lansbury, but that was because I loved Murder, She Wrote, because my parents loved Murder, She Wrote, and I loved Murder, She Wrote. And Angela Lansbury from 1970 until her death, she looked like the same, like she had barely aged. So I loved Angela Lansbury. I loathe Disney with a red hot, fervent hate. I absolutely despise until the last maybe I can name a handful of films that I really enjoyed. Hocus Pocus, the first one I liked, and I really loved 101. Cruella de Vil. And that's kind of where the end of the list is. I kind of really 100% hate Disney. I always have. I've always hated it. The film, I enjoyed it better than Mary Poppins, I will say that. But I did. It was a kind of torture. It was really. It was a torture. I hated the animated scenes and what's his name, who was in both Mary Poppins, who played Mr. Banks, and the love interest, Professor whatever. It was obnoxious. It was just. But I will say this: the British accents were 100% better than the British accents in Mary Poppins.
Okay, thank you. All right, Miss Courtney.
So, unlike Richard-Lael, and much like Heather, Disney runs deep in my blood. I love everything Disney. So I was shocked that I had never seen this. So I tried to watch it today, and I'm still recovering from the hangover from when I fell asleep because it was terrible. I tried so hard. I fought through the sleep washing over me to find some redeeming qualities about it. I do love Angela Lansbury, but I have to agree, her talent is wasted in this movie. She should not be in this movie. I tried to think of like, oh, that was a cute line, and I've already forgotten it. There was probably not one thing that I enjoyed about this movie at all. And that's what.
All right, we're on a roll, everybody. All right, now I'm going to jump in, Patti, who's much more forgiving as a rule. As a rule, but I was not crazy about it either. But my comments are the closest to Jason. I should love it. It's about a witch, a real witch. I'm claiming to be a witch, and I'm fighting the bad guys. And I have a broom, and I have this beautiful magic. But I'm not a film scholar enough to know what was wrong with it. But it was so. I think when I was young, it was okay that it wasn't good. And it was okay now that we're all these grown-ups looking, we're these reviewer, but I could not stand the animated part.
I couldn't either.
I could not stand that was like the worst animation I had ever seen. It didn't take you to a place that animation is supposed to take you. I tried and tried and tried. But again, I love her. I didn't even mind anybody else really. I just don't know. It wasn't, the puzzle pieces weren't put together right, because I love the whole concept that it was. And the witch school. I mean, I have a witch school. It's ridiculous. It should have been so good. But
from my understanding is, and I didn't read the original books, but Disney put the Nazi part in that wasn't in the original books, from my understanding. It was part of what they imbued into it. And to understand part of the reason it failed, you have to understand Disney, what was going on with Disney at the time. So Walt Disney died in around 1966, I believe, or 1967. He had put this film off, and I would guess why he didn't make the film from 1947 or 19 whatever up until only started in 1960. He either was distracted by Disneyland and TV and all these other projects because that's who he was, and he just kind of let it fester, or he bought it and was like, well, I can't get Mary Poppins, because he wanted Mary Poppins before that. So he was trying to get it. So he got it as sort of a sidebar in 1947 and then just held it because it really wasn't what he wanted to do. I'm speculating at this point. But then he kind of put it into motion. Apparently he fell asleep during early tests of the songs, et cetera, and then he dies, right? But what happens with the company is that Roy takes over and they try to do the projects. They try to keep the project similar to what Disney had been doing all along. And just the same reason Hollywood was struggling, Disney began to struggle as a company, because the 60s, we all know, it changed. So by the 70s, people didn't want that same old Disney anymore. And doing the same thing over and over wasn't working. Roy dies in 71, and now there's no leader. So throughout the 70s, Disney really falters. They change leadership in the early 80s, and the new Eisner starts to turn the company around. And they really don't get back on track until 1989 with Little Mermaid. And so this film Bedknobs and Broomsticks, wins an Academy Award. The next Disney film to win an Academy Award is The Little Mermaid. So they really struggled to find their bearings and find their place again throughout the next 2 decades. And that's one of the reasons this film is just an attempt to regurgitate Mary Poppins. They didn't do it on its own. They didn't give it its own merit, in my mind. And if they had tried to do that, instead of trying to make it Mary Poppins and ride that success, it might have worked.
What
But
did
it
it
didn't.
win? What did it win an Academy Award for?
Visual effects.
Yeah, thank you. Visual.
I mean,
think
and it should have. Like the end scene with the knights and stuff is kind of fun.
Oh yeah, I love that.
I don't know
But-
about that.
I said
Yeah.
kind
That was to me, it was the hokiest part. I started laughing.
the color palette of the movie, it's just so bland to look at, and it's a Disney movie, and it shouldn't be boring to look at, but it is. Like the whole thing, it's just sort of dour, and the songs are bad. They're
The
not
songs are
good songs. And the Sherman Brothers, because they wrote the Mary Poppins songs, we know that they can write good songs. Those are earworms.
I
mean,
hate
unless
all
you're
the music
Richard-Lael.
of Mary
Unless
Poppins.
you're
I hate it.
Richard-Lael.
Mary Poppins is
About it.
phenomenal.
They're
yeah.
earworms. They're earworms, and there's none of that. If I have to hear Old Portobello Road one more time in my life, I might just try to like fall off the planet or something. It's such a bad song, and they come back to it over and over and over in the soundtrack. Oh, it's just not good.
Right.
I also feel like there wasn't a lot of like it's not a movie that holds up well either. Like as far as like there's a lot of stereotypes that made me uncomfortable to look at while I was watching it. And I think maybe I would feel slightly more forgiving about that if it had been something that I had grown up with, or whatever, but it wasn't. And it's the same thing. I was like, well, at least the songs will be good. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, no, like I can't find anything. And I'm someone who loves a good terrible movie. Like I love a movie that like we've talked about it before, like Sharknado, or like any of those movies that like try really hard to like be serious but aren't, like whatever, like that whole genre of movies. And so I was almost there was a hot second there where I was like, okay, this isn't going to be good, but maybe it'll be so bad that I'll love it. And I fell asleep and I didn't finish it. So I don't even know the night scene that you're talking about because I could not force my way through it.
Push to the end though. See, I liked it. That you didn't like that, Heather. And again, for the day, that's how many 40 plus years ago, 50 years ago, the see-through nights, and there was nobody marching along. And I thought even now, I thought, this is good. I thought that was a good part. And like Lisa said in the comments, we love your comments, you guys. We are reading them. We are watching them. Everybody wants a flying bed, right?
What I don't understand is why they tried to do it, because the movie goes from this sweet story, potentially sweet story about this witch trying to learn witchcraft, the Wizard of Oz type magical person who's not a magical person running a school with these kids who are orphaned because of the war, this kind of like little setup that had the potential of being a small, sweet, uncomplicated story with a lot of heart into something bigger with the whole tribute to the British Army and the war against the Nazis, and it like converted into something else. And that's is, I think, the problem. One of the problems.
I loved about it because
really
during the bombing blitz, during the whole World War II era, there were groups of witches who would go out on the coast and they would say towards Germany, you cannot come, you must not come, you cannot come. So the fact that a witch is defeating the Nazis and then sort of not getting the credit, it's the old folks who are getting the credit. It's sort of what happened really in real life, is that yes, there was a bombing blitz of London, but then the Nazis just didn't come to England. They just didn't. So
right, I get that, and I get there's that reality, but I don't think Disney had any clue about that. I think that's a coincidence, is my guess, because again, they're the ones who put that part in the story. It was not written into the story. So if it was written into the story, I would say, yeah, maybe they were pulling off of reality with the witches that did do that, but they didn't. And then it's like it overcompensated. I think it could have even had that little piece if they had made it smaller without all the big hoopla at the end and the marching and the big scene with the castle and all. I'm like, it's turned into another movie at this point. And so I was really not liking that ending. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just desperately wanted it to be Operation Cone of Power when I started watching the movie. For those of you who don't know, Operation Cone of Power, that's what Richard-Lael is talking about. A group of witches got together and they did some rituals on the beach, and they were trying to put this message in Hitler's head: cannot cross the sea, cannot come, cannot come. And the invasion was imminent, and then it didn't come. Did witches save the UK? I can't tell you that they did for sure, but of course witches saved the UK, and they were there. And that's what I wanted this movie to be. And then it would have been like the best movie we've ever done on the show. But it's not that.
I agree. I think if the ending hadn't turned into the knights marching and the British Army and all that military stuff, and it turned out that she found a bunch of other friends and they got some brooms and stood on there and started doing some of the magic words, it totally would have changed, and it would have stayed small. It would have stayed less whatever it was at the end. I think that would be super cool. That would have been better. I agree with you, Jason.
But it's still witchcraft that made those knights go. Those were medieval knights. That was still witchcraft. It wasn't just like the army came in. Though I did like the old guys. They were really cute. Before we move on, I do want to go to the music, though. I am the world's biggest fan. I'm midway on Disney. I'm not the fan that Courtney and Heather is. I certainly don't hate them like Richard-Lael. I've always been neutral in the middle. I love Disney. I grew up going to Disney. I like Disney stuff, but I'm not a Disney girl. But I am a Sherman Brothers girl. As soon as I was of age 21 years old, I used to work for the guy who owns a Magic Castle, and he owned a club downtown LA called the Variety Arts Center. And I did original shows for like 6 years by Richard Sherman, and it was great. Original songs. He'd take like stuff from his Mary Poppins. He'd take stuff like, I know that tune. We're going to turn it into something else for this. We did shows from the 30s and 20s, 30s, 40s. It was all this. You'd walk back in retro 20s, 30s, 40s. But I must say, he never used anything from Bedknobs and Broomsticks. There was no little things picked up from it. Almost everything else we did is like, oh, this is from that. This is a Mary Poppins redone to be our chorus girl thing. So that was disappointing for me too, being the fan of the Sherman Brothers as much as anything.
There's a musical now of Bedknobs and Broomsticks that's playing in London, and it's supposed to tour. And the trailers, I watched some of the trailers for it. It looks really cool with the flying bed and all that. It's some of the same songs, but maybe they made them better somehow. If that came by, I would be curious. I'm not Richard-Lael. I like Disney movies as a whole generally. So I'm kind of curious. Maybe they fixed the problems with Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Maybe this time it'll have Gerald Gardner.
Likely. So that's definitely... That's an improvement to get rid of those.
No more briny sea. No more briny sea. That would be great.
Can we just touch base on what flashed on the screen just a second ago, because I am irate. No, I'm being haunted by this. I didn't
You're getting red. You're getting red.
I'm terrified. That's why. And maybe my heat is kicking on. But I did not see that on screen please. Oh my God. I didn't see it on screen last week. And you guys were laughing and I didn't know why. And then I found out after we got off the air and I just saw it this time. I was paying attention. Rob. What are the magic words? Ooble kazooble. I'm going to turn you into a rabbit. Whatever it is.
Rob is the man behind the curtain right now. He's our
Wizard of Oz.
He
is our mail order, like running a mail order school witch or something, right?
So I guess we won't be making any Bedknobs and Broomsticks merch for our mystery control. No, okay, no flying beds.
But speaking of mystery control, I have this beautiful cape that's keeping me warm on this cold, dark night and warming my cold, dead heart, and I got it at mysterycontrol.com. And you can't really see it, but it says Witch's Movie Coven on the back.
It is fabulous.
Yep. Can I just say one more thing about Bedknobs and Broomsticks before we do ones up and ones down? when I was doing, I think it was October, I was doing surveys of movies on Twitter. I would ask people questions and they would have to say what their favorite, which movie was about this, that, and the other thing. And one was, I believe, just what's your favorite which movie? And I just tallied it. And Bedknobs and Broomsticks got like 3 votes. Like, I am literally not kidding. And I'm not saying
Heather, you said
50.
Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Yeah.
Did I really?
Yes.
Okay, so the new name, I renamed the movie. So Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Okay, one's up, one's down. My wand is on the other side of my desk, so I'm going to do Poppins up, Poppins down.
Why is there always a doll?
Bedknobs and Broomsticks is what this movie
There we
is.
go, another name.
That's yeah.
I think we have to do hashtag Bedknobs and Broomsticks from now on.
My bar with Disney is very low, so I'm not. I didn't love it. I hated it, but I hated it less than the next film we're going to talk about. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Yeah.
I'm not giving it a full down. This is like a 3/4 down.
All right, now I'm changing
because
mine. Oh, no.
it's a historical artifact, you know. It's
Okay.
a
that
Kind of
doesn't-
went up. Okay, thank
That
you.
doesn't excuse it. Wizard of Oz is a historical artifact, and it always gets ones up, multiple ones.
but it's good, you know. But that's a good
Right.
movie. You know,
Right,
this isn't
that's
the
my
worst
point.
thing I've ever seen. I've seen
It is the worst thing I've ever
Velocipaster.
seen. Don't you dare come for Velocipaster! That is my favorite. I love that movie.
I must say, I feel like very guilty doing wands down, so I'm going sideways because some little kid might like it, and then there's witches saving the world, and they might even like the animated, and they
And
probably
it's
don't
Angela
care.
Lansbury.
It's
I
Angela
know.
Angela Lansbury. Hello, Angela Lansbury.
It's Mrs. Potts.
All right.
Well, Mrs. Potts. Let's just do it. Let her do Mrs. Potts. I give it. I'm fully wands down. I'm not. I
Okay,
have
go
no
Heather.
remorse.
Heather's ruthless. Ruthless Heather Greene.
That's me.
All right. Anyway, you guys, we want to see what you got. We got wands level. We got wands down. We've got Robert wanting us to leave Courtney alone.
Thank you, Robert. I see you.
So we haven't had a wands up yet. Not a single complete wands up yet for
No.
Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So I guess we should move along. So we are going to move along to Mary Poppins.
Hello, Mary.
And Heather's got her hat.
Expialidocious, even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious.
If you say it loud enough, you'll always sound precocious. Okay, that's the Sherman Brothers. That's my Sherman
Yes.
Brothers. Every song in it is an earworm.
Richard-Lael.
All right, who wants to go first? Not Richard-Lael. Who wants to go first? We'll go back and forth a little. Courtney, you go first.
Okay, so unlike Bedknobs and Broomsticks, I did grow up with Mary Poppins, and I love it. There is nothing that movie can do wrong as far as the movie goes, in my opinion. Every song, I love it. I sing Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious or say the word at least once a week, just naturally. I, growing up, wanted her bag more than I wanted anything else. And then when I watched Harry Potter, and you all have seen what I feel about Harry Potter, I was like, Hermione's bag towards the end, you know, is just the same as Mary Poppins. And so it always goes there for me. So I love Mary Poppins a lot, and I will sing the song again, Richard-Lael, if you threaten to take hair off my head.
Okay. All right. Okay, Richard-Lael. Any comments?
It was torture for me to wreck. It was, oi, hello, Governor. I'm British. I live in England. Oi, hello. Oh God, it was like, kill me. I hated every second of it. I hated the animation. I hated the stupid songs. I hated the stupid ending.
Oh my.
I hate it. I cannot tell you how visceral. I watched the whole thing, and it was like I was being tortured. I could not stand it. But I will tell you this. Julie Andrews is great. The costuming was better. I loved the costuming. I will say this too, is that I have a connection with this film that it's magic. The connection that I have is the first year I came to Hollywood, I was standing on Hollywood Boulevard, because that's how you do. You go to Hollywood, and you have to go to Hollywood Boulevard. That's what you do. And they were filming Gangster Squad. And they had all of the cars out there, and it was phenomenal. It was amazing. It was brilliant. And I said to the universe, I'm going to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. And 1 year later, to the day, I am limo driver number 3 in Saving Mr. Banks.
Wow.
Awesome.
And I said to the universe, that's not what I meant.
I gotta be specific, witch. Be specific, witch.
The universe works in mysterious ways.
Yes. So I really, and I thought the ending was terrible. And also knowing a little bit about the author weeping when she saw it, she that's what Saving Mr. Banks is about, because it was about her father. Mr. Banks was her father. And it was her growing up in Edwardian England and not really having this connection. And she was trying to save her dad. So I really, I cannot tell you how much I hate Mary Poppins.
No,
I even hate the music.
but how could you hate the music? Just a spoonful of
Full
sugar.
of sugar has
The
the
medicine
medicine
go
go
down.
down.
The medicine go
down.
down. Medicine
Medicine
go
go
down.
down.
I probably sing that constantly when it's like,
For me,
okay. Weren't they not?
Disney is more terrifying to me than haunted dolls are to Courtney.
How dare you?
I mean, it's true. This is my Achilles heel. I cannot. That constant cheer. And the thing with me, I'm always chipper unless I'm wood chipper. Okay, so there's two extremes, and I like things that are duality. And Disney is always sort of very traditionally, and I can't stand it.
Let me say, yeah, the accents were ridiculous, but they weren't supposed to be like English accents. Weren't they supposed to have some form of Cockney kind of I mean, even Dick Van Dyke. I just thought, from growing up, that's Cockney, that's lowbrow. I don't know.
Well, he was definitely lowbrow.
Every time that I go to England, I practice that Dick Van Dyke accent. And my wife hits me every time. Shine your shoes, governor. I'm down. I'm ready. Oh, it's a great time with Mary Poppins. It's time for Mary. It's terrible, but it's endearing in its own way. And I can't imagine Mary Poppins with anybody but Dick Van Dyke.
No.
And I know that it's bad, but there's just something like over the top and crazy about it that's perfect for a movie that's half cartoon.
It's a fantasy. It's our idea of a nanny. It's our idea of everything. And I must say, just a couple years pre-COVID, I got to meet Dick Van Dyke. Buddy Hackett's widow, Shelley Hackett, has and if any of you were there and did readings, you would have been in there with me, has a psychic party once a year, and she brought in like 15, 20 like top psychics, and the people who came that you did readings for was like Joanne Worley, Dick Van Dyke, and they were also in character. And I'm only talking like 2-3 years ago, so not a million years ago. Joanne Worley literally would come in this movie dress going wah 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 wah, being her in character fully. Dick Van Dyke came in, and he must be like 100. He came in and almost did the trip over the Rob thing. He didn't quite. It's like these people have been doing this it's the most magical thing ever. All these old Hollywood people being, and you see how they got to be who they are. So how can anything he does has to be good. And he's still alive and kicking.
Wow.
Well, you know what? I liked him in that doctor show. What was that? Oh God.
Diagnosis Murder.
Yes, I like old people shows where people die. I like that. They terrible days, and old people find ways to figure out who killed them. I love it. I love old people shows.
Richard-Lael, if it helps you at all, this felt like an old people show to me.
Which
Mary
one?
Poppins.
Mary Poppins felt like an old people show.
Mhm.
It's
Maybe that's
dated.
why I hated it. I hated it every second.
Okay.
Well,
All right. Go on.
Well, Mary Poppins, you know, just add the history in because that's what I usually do. I get to give my Cliff Clavin moments in film history. So this one, he didn't get the rights. If you saw the movie, know the history. A lot of people do now. He didn't get the rights until finally 1961, I think. And then the film got made right then. I mean, it was everything else. This is what he did. And it won tons of awards. In fact, I just read in one of my books that Julie Andrews didn't want to do the part in the beginning. She actually was irritated because she was not given the part of Eliza Doolittle in
Dr. Doolittle.
No, Eliza Doolittle in
My Fair Lady.
My Fair Lady. Thank you.
Oh, right.
They gave it to Audrey Hepburn, and that was, in my opinion, the wrong thing to do. I love Audrey Hepburn, but Julie Andrews is Julie Andrews. I love her. And being a fan of musical theater, Julie Andrews is one of my idols. So she should have had that role, but she didn't get it. She was irritated and almost turned it down. They actually wanted her to do Bedknobs and Broomsticks too, but she turned that one down, thankfully.
Wise woman.
I don't think she could have saved it. But, you know, for me, this movie came out. So this movie came out and was released pre his death, before Hollywood started to before the society started to change over. A lot of the movies still were very 1950s. It was still classic Disney, and it was still successful. It wasn't until you got to the mid 60s and I've talked about this with Bewitched and the Addams Family, a lot of witch movies. It is until you get to the late 60s where Hollywood really can't find its place and starts to change over, make that change. So this movie was still old. It still was very much classic Disney. Bedknobs and Broomsticks, released in 1971, was trying to do classic Disney in an age when it wasn't working anymore. So this one fits right in. And this movie is tighter. The story's tighter. It stays right in the place it's supposed to stay. It doesn't try to go off and talk about politics and Nazis from 20 years ago and stuff. So it stays very central. I loved it as a kid. I could sing every song. I remember the record that my parents had, and I would put it on and stare at the words of the songs and sing them. And I would watch this constantly. Now, if I had to choose between this one and The Sound of Music, I take Sound of Music anytime because I love The Sound of Music. I'm talking about Julie Andrews here, but this one is really good. Now, another one that came out, Disney did right around the same time as this one, was The Three Lives of Thomasina. Not a musical, but it's another witchy magical film that was fairly successful, but it's the same type of thing of a witch in a cottage in England and blah, 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 kids and all that stuff. So that's another one you can add if you're looking for more witchy Disney films from the early 60s. The Three Lives of Thomasina is another one. But I love this movie. And Richard-Lael. I mean, so the movie's hokey and it's old and it's for kids and whatever. The music is bad. What?
I hated it. I did hate it.
Really?
I really
and the
didn't
dancing
like
and Julie Andrews and
but again,
I'm sorry.
I never even as a little boy, I never liked Disney, and I thought I hated musicals because that my association was with Disney. Even as we're talking like 5 and 6, 7, 10 years old, I went, okay, what? Why are you singing now? And then when I started doing musicals, and I went, oh, that's why you're singing. Now I get it. Now I like it. But I still never got back around to liking Disney. Right. I never could. I never could. And in fact, in 1993, the funny thing was this: it was the Addams Family Values had come out, and they're all in the Harmony Hut, and she says he says it's Glicker. He says it's Disney. He's just a child, and they're, and I understood, because I just never liked the music, and I love music. I just never liked Disney music.
I will say that I don't think Mary Poppins is a perfect movie. The runtime is 2 hours and 20 minutes. It is way too long. You could get rid of the first 30 minutes and nobody would blink an eye. I do not need to hear the life I lead. You could have like condensed that into like 4 minutes. Like, the whole first 30 minutes could have been condensed into 4. And then it picks up, and then you get the good songs. Then you get supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and all the atrociousness, and then a spoonful of sugar and things. But it starts really slow, and the movie is too long. It needs to be about 30 minutes shorter. There are times when I watch it, I do get a little bit bored, even though I think the performances are really fun, and it's colorful, and it has a color palette unlike Bedknobs and Broomsticks, which I
like the
know.
color palette.
I know it wasn't like filmed in black and white, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, but watching it, it feels like it was filmed in black
brown
and white.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. With a little bit of dark green, I think.
Right. But it's not a perfect film.
This one, no, it's not perfect. It isn't, but it's definitely a classic Disney. I think I read it got $40 million in its first release, which made it the 6th highest grossing film at the time. I mean, it was a huge, huge success. So, Disney wanted to capitalize on that. And it really was, like just an amazing feat that they had done. And it continues. It doesn't hold up like The Wizard of Oz does. Well, if you compare it to another classic film that people see over and over, it doesn't hold up the same way. It doesn't, but it is. I think someone said it's delightful. I like that word. It is. There's something delightful about it.
I tell you what I love about it, actually?
Yeah.
I'll tell. Okay, I was so negative.
When it's not on.
When it ends.
What I will tell you is that what I do love about the film is that I think that Mary Poppins and Pennywise are of the same species, following the rules of, again, it's a Pixar Disney film, Monsters Incorporated, where the monsters, they think that they get all this energy from screaming children, and then they find out, laughter is actually a better tool. And so in this one, in Mary Poppins Returns, that the next, in that story, she returns 20 years later, just like Pennywise, who returns 20 years later. This time she's being nice. And the parents, like in It, the parents don't have any idea what's happening with their children. They're sort of oblivious to the fact that this interdimensional magic being is just living among them. So I think Mary Poppins and Pennywise are the same being. That's the story.
It's a hot take, Richard-Lael. Can I say something though? Because I just want to, now that I've had time to process this, can we give a wands up for Richard-Lael's reenactment of Mary Poppins? Because that was the best thing I've ever heard.
I'm just all
it was
excited
like so
now.
aggressive. I felt really aggressive during that. And it was like, a good
Passion.
performance. Yeah, a good performance makes you feel something. So
Now I'm just excited about these like future installments of Mary Poppins every 20 years. I mean, she was 1910, 1930. I want to see her in 1950s. I assume that'll be like Ariana Grande or something. Will be that incarnation of Mary Poppins. And then the 1970 movie. That will be off the hook.
The 1970s Mary Poppins
She'll come
costuming
in
is
on a
gonna be
brass
fun.
bed.
Yeah.
On a brass bed.
Come in flying on a brass bed. She'll leave the whole parasol and she'll just come in flying on a brass bed.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Well, I liked it. No, it's not perfect. Who looks for a perfect movie? It's a Disney movie. It doesn't have to be perfect. I agree with you. Wizard of Oz over Mary Poppins. Wizard of Oz. That's our film. We know that. But Mary Poppins is very much a close second or third for me. It was very influential to me when I was little. I didn't know, and I grew up in very much middle-class suburbia. I didn't know anybody who had a nanny. You had babysitters, but no, I didn't know anybody who had a nanny. And to me, that was so magical. And this magical nanny that had everything in her bag and can, almost bewitch clean. I just loved it. I just loved it. Everything about it. And I could have had another half hour and not got bored or not got tired because the music kept you going and you wanted to dance. I love the animation in that one. It just is so different than Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So I like it.
I think when I was a kid, I didn't even pick up too much on the story with the parents and why she was there. I mean, that's you get it more as you get older of the whole thing. And, they read the letter and the suffragette mom and all those various subtle pieces that an adult might pick up on. All I cared about was like you said, Mary Poppins was there. I wanted Mary Poppins in my house. I wanted to be able to do all the things that she could do. I wanted the magic bag. I imagined myself as one of those kids, and I love musicals. So you put a song in a good story, I'm in. So, that I was entranced and I still enjoy it. It brings me back. So
me too.
I'm curious to know what your thoughts are, because we kind of touched on it, but we didn't really talk about the brand new one with, was it Emily Blunt?
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts are on that one.
Well, you know what? I was hoping I could rewatch it for today to be more specific, but what I remember about it was I enjoyed watching it when I was watching it. I don't remember thinking this is terrible, but it wasn't Mary Poppins. And so I don't remember the songs. And it has good people in it, and it has, I don't remember it being bothered by it, but it's forgettable. For me, it was just, okay. Something like Mary Poppins is hard to recreate when you have such a cultural iconic film, or to bring back. They were not successful, I don't think, in reaching that point.
It's not a stain on the legacy of the Mary Poppins movie, but as Heather says, it's just not memorable. It's fine. I enjoyed watching it. I think we've watched it 2 or 3 times, but if you wanted me to tell you like a whole lot of details about it, other than kid grows up, it's not as cool as Mary Poppins liked, she visits him again, and Lin-Manuel Miranda are in it. That's about all I can tell you. And Dick Van Dyke shows up too.
He does. I was going to say he makes a cameo at some point, doesn't he?
Yeah, at the very end. He's the banker, which was in the original film too.
That's right.
Yeah, but I mean, I was watching it and I was like, if Dick Van Dyke isn't in this movie, I'm going to yell and scream, and express my dissatisfaction on Twitter. But they save themselves at the end and he shows up.
I agree with you 100%. That is exactly my feeling. It's not a stain, but it really wasn't.
Yeah, Sam's right. The version the songs weren't bad. I didn't go, oh, these are terrible, like Bedknobs and Broomsticks. And it was fun, but it doesn't stick in your head like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, which is a word nobody should know. But song is so good that you know it, right? Yeah, except for Richard-Lael. He probably doesn't know the word. He probably screws it up on purpose.
I watched it a couple of times in the movie theater, and I feel like, yes, I agree. It was not like, I remember the scene where they were sliding down the bathtub, and I kind of can remember the tune of the song, and I remember the Dick Van Dyke thing. But I remember yes, does it hold a candle to the original? No, but I feel like the fan service in the movie was really well done, and I cried watching it the first time, because I just was overwhelmed with the nostalgia of it for me. But a movie can't stand on nostalgia alone. So I don't disagree, but I was just curious to hear for someone who loves it as much as I love it, how you felt about it.
I don't know if I cry when I cry at nostalgic movies too, just the sheer fact that you're getting to see something again. I'll cry when I walk into Disneyland, just because I'm at Disneyland again. I mean, this nostalgia hits me like that too. So I totally get what you're saying. I cried when the Star Wars returned, that first one in the last.
So bad.
the last set of movies, when the first one opened in the theaters, we went as a family, and I
have
cried at
never
the beginning.
seen-
Oh.
I have never
Here we
seen
go. Here
one-
we go.
Richard-Lael.
Richard-Lael.
He's having
Stop.
internet issues. He's having internet issues.
Never
Were you
seen
breaking up, Richard-Lael?
one
Can't hear you. You're in a
of
tunnel.
No,
You're in a tunnel.
Richard-Lael, I'm starting to think that you're from another planet, Richard-Lael.
Are you Pennywise?
It's possible. It is definitely
The
not.
prequels are
I
better
cried
than
on
the
our
new trilogy. Ugh. I cried when I saw The Force Awakens because I was sad that somebody remade Star Wars in a
Yep.
crappier way.
Jason, I think
That's-
that you're
More
you're
or
in the
less.
same tunnel. You're in the same tunnel as Richard-Lael right now. You just said prequels to me, and I can't talk to you anymore. I will not be seeing you in March. I'm so sorry. I have to wash my hair that day.
People have been telling me that since high school, avoiding me for dates. I am going to track you down.
What there was a question that our producer Rob has asked, I think last week or before the show. Is Mary Poppins a witch? That's a big question, and I got that a question a lot while I was and had to consider it while I was writing my book. Because did I include Mary Poppins in my study? And I could argue it either way. So I'd like to hear what everyone else has to say, because I can argue either way.
Yes, she's a witch. There's no question about it. I mean, in the beginning, she doesn't have a broom, but she has an umbrella. That's her version of a broom. She flew in from the skies. She's magic. Yes, I think I always thought she was a witch. They didn't have to say it, but they did say it in the beginning, so you thought witch if you were a little kid. So I vote she is. Next.
I believe she's a killer clown from outer space.
Yeah. You already voiced that.
Is she a witch? No, I don't think she's a witch. I think she's a killer clown from outer space. That's all I have on that.
I'll take it.
I'm not sure she would have self-identified as a witch, but I think she's witchy. I mean, she's doing magic and stuff. I mean, what else? Who else does that? She's certainly not a Catholic nun, right? I'm good with witch. I think we could run with that.
Well, she
Yeah, I
doesn't
feel like-
self-identify, so we can't call her that, though. That would not be okay, would it?
But she's dead. So we are doing that a lot now. We're reclassifying people, and I'm cool with going with bitch. I mean, Julie Andrews is not dead,
No.
but Mary Poppins, who was there in 1910, would probably be dead. But I mean, she's Pennywise now, and I'm really confused because of Richard-Lael. So I mean, maybe I don't know. If she wasn't a witch then, she would have embraced it in the 1970 fourth film, Mary Poppins Goes to Woodstock 2 or something. You know that?
That's awesome.
Valid. That's a valid point. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
take that
I
one.
will tell you a funny story too about Mary Poppins. A friend of mine was an exotic dancer, and she dressed. I'm not making this up. She dressed like Mary Poppins, and her thing was she was Cherry Poppins. She was an exotic dancer, and her name was Cherry Poppins, and she would go up.
Shiro.
I mean,
So,
I'm
you know,
intrigued.
If you love Mary Poppins, you would love Cherry Poppins. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Did she get down to knickers?
She did. She really. She
But like-
did.
But like knickers. I would think Mary Poppins, her underwear would.
Oh, like the pantaloons. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, pantaloons, exactly.
This is odd. Somehow we always get here, and I'm not sure how.
Well, didn't
You know how?
wasn't
I'm
the
good-
house on Cherry Lane?
Oh.
Yes.
hmm
Wow.
It was cherry tree or cherry. Yeah.
Mm.
Cherry
Tree?
Tree. I know Cherry was in the name of the street
Yep.
where they lived.
Mhm.
Yes.
Number 13, Cherry Lane. Wasn't that right?
17, I think. It should have been 13.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
I can't remember. I mean, I hated the film, and it was a torture to watch it. So it was. I couldn't. I was barely awake past that point.
Scared and Alone is telling us it has to be a G-rated show, folks. I see the comments. But okay, so what we were supposed to vote on something before we voted on the movie, but I can't think.
Oh, Richard-Lael's rendition of his reenactment of Mary Poppins.
Okay. Richard-Lael's rendition
Wands
of
up.
Mary Poppins.
Wands up.
Wands
It's
up.
a one man show coming
Mhm.
soon to you.
Okay, all of you guys want to vote on Richard-Lael's performance, dedication, commitment, method acting.
Method
Mhm.
act.
The commitment was my favorite part of it.
I know he's going to come back to Hollywood. Move back. We'll see him on Hollywood Boulevard, dressed like Mary Poppins, and then turn into Pennywise. One
Ooh, I
side.
like it. Halloween costume this year, Richard-Lael sorted already. You got it.
All right.
I'm not. I could never be something so scary as Disney. Anything.
Disney
I could
princess.
never.
Don't be a Disney princess.
Scary. Scares me. Scares me.
Ah,
All right.
All
I'm gonna
now
play Fire
we
Down.
know you got your number.
I'm
Start
storing
sending
all
your
that
Disney
right in here.
princess Barbies to Richard.
Mhm.
All right. Well, everybody, I think you got all wands and thumbs and puppets up on that one, Richard-Lael. But now let's vote on the movie. You guys vote too before we go. Mary Poppins, wands up, wands down. Wands up, wands up, wands up. When we don't even have a wand is so low on Richard-Lael's, we can't even see it. We got bones up, we got femurs up, we got wands up.
Poppets up.
Poppets up.
Yeah.
I can't reach my wand. We mostly got wands up. Some people voted, neutral for the returns. I have never seen the return, so I cannot vote. Look at that! You got Mickey hands.
Hi,
Remain calm,
Richard-Lael.
Richard-Lael. You're safe. This is a safe place. You're okay.
You know what, though? I will tell you that with those gloves, it reminds me of all of my food allergies. So, you never know. I'm always swelling and puffing up. So maybe you take a Benadryl. Maybe.
I don't know. It's just got me in the mood for hamburger helper.
Yes!
All right. You guys come back next week. Tell your friends. Everybody, I want to see. I've got just a couple minutes left. Anybody go through everybody where they can find you. Let's start with Courtney.
Me. You can
Anything
find me
coming up?
online. I do. I have some stuff coming up online. Oh my goodness. I have two thoughts crossing. I'm doing the anti-Valentine's Day tour this year in Salem. So if you are visiting Salem or you're local, come check us out. It's from the 10th of February through the 14th of February every night, at least once a night. It is going to be on the trolley so you can stay warm and you can learn all about all of the ways that if you get married or fall in love, you will be murdered. And check out the Salem Night Tour Instagram page and Facebook page, because I know that you guys are all used to seeing me like this, but I dressed like a human this weekend, and I did my hair and I did my makeup and I did a photo shoot. I was wearing a dress, and those pictures will be posted as part of the promotion for this tour, so you can check that out. And I will repost them on my various social medias. You can find me at The Themes on Instagram, TikTok, all the fun stuff. Twitch, I do horror games. And of course, I am Ghostbait on Scared and Alone, and the website is right there, scaredandalone.com. And if you want to be cool like me, go to mysterycontrol.com and get all your Witches Movie Coven gear, because there's some good stuff on there. I have to go shopping again.
Yep. And there's new stuff on there, so check it out. If you went there last week, go there again. I haven't even gone there yet, but the man behind the curtain says go there again. All right, Jason.
I'm Jason Mankey at Pan Mankey, I think, on most of my social media, and I'm on the road a lot in February and March. My first trip is to Detroit for Convocation, which is 1,000 pagans in a hotel in Detroit, which is great because then you don't have to go outside because it's Detroit in February. Austin Witch Fest, Paganicon in Minneapolis, and then Boxborough, Massachusetts for the Magical Marketplace and Psychic Fair. I'm so excited to be hitting the road. And I'm still going to try to do this show even when I'm on the road. We're going to see how that works.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, Heather.
Hi. You can find me on all my socials and go to heathergreene.net. They're all there. They are pretty much Heather Greene 001 or Heather Greene Writes, but you go to my website and find them all there. And I also update where I'm going to be or what I'm doing. I also update my articles. You can find those. I do those couple a month. So look for that mostly at Religion News Service. You'll find some. I just did a neat one on crystals that was published last week. So you can find those links on my website. I will be in St. Augustine, Florida at the end of February, and probably doing a little talk or meet and greet at the metaphysical store there. I'll chat about that next week, and I get that put down and also put it out on my socials and stuff like that. And I will also be traveling in March and April. So as soon as I have solid dates, I will let you know.
Thank you so much. Jason.
Already went.
Already went.
Oh, I'm sorry, Richard-Lael.
What?
Wait, it's my turn now. Okay. So I'm easily found anywhere. Gentleman Psychics are sold. TheGentlemanPsychic.com is my website. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube under The Gentleman Psychic or Richard-Lael Lillard. Also, I will be going to SatanCon in April in Boston, and I'll also be in Salem in April. So you can find me there, and then of course I'll get to see Courtney in the flesh, and maybe I'll bring a haunted doll. I don't know.
No.
But you know what? I'll meet you halfway. I'll bring a haunted Disney princess doll.
Ooh.
Fine.
Satan gets a con? That's incredible.
Yeah, Satan
That's
gets a con.
amazing.
Do not donate your haunted dolls to me. Stop putting that up there.
All right, you guys. I am Patti Negri, PattiNegri.com. I'm on all the social medias too as Patti Negri or Patti Negri Psychic Medium or Patti.Negri on Instagram. I will never contact you unless I know you, and I'll never tell you you need something from me. Check out, please, my Witches Movie Coven, which you will see people like these fabulous people as my guests, authors and experts from all sorts of magical things on The Witching Hour, everywhere you get your podcasts, and in video on my YouTube page and on Paraflix.com, my network. I have a school called University Magicus where Richard-Lael teaches for us, and we're going to get everybody else there too. If you want to learn any of the metaphysical arts, psychic development, mediumship, spell crafting, vampires, werewolves, Satanists, Catholic priests, we're all encompassing. So check it out. February, I'm going to be in LA for the Vampire Ball. A lot of people are coming in from all over. It's going to be great at the Globe Theater, endlessnight.com. Then I'm hitting the Darkwater Cruise in early March. I'm actually going to be in Australia, but you guys can't come. It's private. But then I'm on the road for most of the year. So we'll just keep talking about that as we go. As you guys come back next week, tell us what you want. Tell us what you want to see, what kind of movies. We love your input here. Go to mysterycontrol.com so we can all get fabulous little cloaks like Courtney has, and shirts. And
I have a shirt too.
wait, and I just love
shirt
and of course, I know we're going long. And
We'll
we
get you
all
merchandise.
have, if you're in the Black Phillip Club, and okay, we've gone 3 minutes over, and I never do that, but we have one more thing to do. On the count of three, you guys turn on the bell. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.